So welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover a particular day's current affairs in a short span of time within 30 minutes so that you're able to cover your day's current affairs on a daily basis but without spending that much time. In around 30 minutes, you'll be done for the day. Okay. Now, please do not forget to download the notes for this lecture. Okay. Revising these notes is very important because through revision you'll be able to remember these current affairs for long periods of time. Now you can download these notes from our Telegram channel, and just below this video in the comment section I have shared a link to our Telegram channel. You just have to click on that link and you'll go to our Telegram channel, and from there you can download the notes for this lecture. All right, so let's begin our discussion, but first let's take a look at the list of topics that we are going to cover today. So here's the list of today's topics. First of all, we'll talk about India-Bangladesh Extradition Treaty. Now the thing is that former Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina, fled the country 4 months back because of massive protests against her. Now the new government of Bangladesh is asking for her handover to Bangladesh. She's currently in India, and Bangladesh's government is asking India to hand her over because there are many court cases pending against her. So how can India hand over a former prime minister to Bangladesh? Well, that will happen through the extradition treaty between the two countries. So we'll talk about this. Then we'll talk about 18th Biennial Forest Report. You see, Forest Survey of India every 2 years comes out with a state of forest report for India. So the recent report, that was the 2023 report, which was released recently, talked a lot about India's forest cover and tree cover. So we'll talk about this. Then, recently Prime Minister Narendra Modi asked all the union ministers to attend the camps of distribution of property cards under the SWAMITVA scheme. Now, what is this SWAMITVA scheme? We'll talk about this. And in the end, we'll talk about Kisan Diwas, which is celebrated every year on 23rd of December to mark the birth anniversary of Chaudhry Charan Singh, the 5th Prime Minister of India and a very tall farmer leader. Okay, so 23rd December is celebrated as National Farmers Day, Kisan Diwas. So we'll talk about this. All right, so these are the 4 topics that we are going to focus our entire attention on. Please give me your 100% because through this lecture you will cover today's current affairs. All right, let's begin the discussion starting with topic number 1, which is India-Bangladesh Extradition Treaty. Okay, so it has been 4 months since Bangladesh PM Sheikh Hasina fled Bangladesh and came to India following massive student protests against her government. Now, the new Bangladesh's government is very anti-Sheikh Hasina and her party, Awami League. Okay, and many court cases have been lodged in the courts of Bangladesh against Sheikh Hasina. She is pending trial in these court cases. Now, Bangladesh is asking India to hand her over to Bangladesh so that she can face the justice of that country. But chances are that India won't hand her over. Now, both these countries have signed an extradition treaty. Okay, under extradition treaty, both these countries would hand each other over the criminals in each other's country. Basically, what that means is that if there is a criminal of Bangladesh from Bangladesh in India, India will hand over that criminal to Bangladesh, and vice versa goes for Bangladesh. Okay, now Bangladesh is saying that Sheikh Hasina is criminal as per our records, as per our court cases. So, as per the extradition treaty, India has to hand her over. Extradition means give us back. Okay, you have to hand the criminal over. Now, Dhaka has even sent a diplomatic note to New Delhi for this. The thing is that this extradition treaty between India and Bangladesh was signed in 2013, and it has benefited India more than Bangladesh. The thing was that many of the criminals in India used to commit a crime and then fled to Bangladesh. Okay, many northeastern terrorists, terror groups in northeast used to commit their terror acts and then flee to Bangladesh for protection. Therefore, India in 2013 signed a extradition treaty under which Bangladesh finds these terrorists in Bangladesh and hands them over to India so that they can face justice. And many northeast based terror groups have been brought to justice through this extradition treaty. They were fleeing to Bangladesh and they were brought back to India. Now, let's talk about this treaty. So basically, this treaty was signed in 2013 and it was amended in 2016. Now, before the 2016 amendment, both countries were required to prove that the particular person you're asking for under the extradition treaty has committed a crime. Okay, so let's suppose a terrorist is in Bangladesh and India wants that terrorist back. So India had to prove to Bangladesh that this person has committed these crimes, so please return him back. But after the 2016 amendment, that requirement of producing the evidence for crime was done away with. All India had to do was just show that there are court summons against this person, please hand him over. So, the requirement for the country seeking extradition to provide evidence of the offense committed was done away with. You just had to show that there are court summons against him. Okay, now only an arrest warrant issued by a competent court of that country is required. And that goes both ways. So, Bangladesh has not proved that Sheikh Hasina has committed crime to India. Okay, Bangladesh is saying that there are many courts in Bangladesh that have released arrest warrant for Sheikh Hasina, and we are producing that arrest warrant to you, so please return her back. Okay, this treaty was very useful, like I mentioned before, for India, because this treaty with Bangladesh allowed India to successfully extradite Anup Chetia, a top United Liberation Front of Assam leader, in 2015. Okay, and Northeast-based terror groups and the operatives of those terror groups were handed over to India through this treaty. Now, Bangladesh is asking the same for Sheikh Hasina, and because of the 2016 amendment, Bangladesh does not have to prove that Sheikh Hasina has committed crimes. They just have to show the arrest warrant released from different courts. Okay. Now, at this very moment, you might say that India is now stuck. It is legally bound to hand Sheikh Hasina over to Bangladesh as per the treaty, and India is treaty bound. India respects rule of law. But the thing is, this treaty contains certain provisions through which India can refuse an extradition request. Same is the case with Bangladesh. Bangladesh can also refuse. Okay, so there are some grounds mentioned in this treaty through which a country can reject the request for extradition. And what are those grounds? So, Article 8 of the treaty lists multiple grounds for refusal of extradition request. Two of those grounds are that if the particular criminal being asked for extradition has been accused of a crime that is made in good faith in the interest of justice, that is not made in good faith. Okay, if India feels that bogus charges are being leveled against her, then India can refuse that request. Or if military offenses which are not an offense under the general criminal law, if that person is accused of a military offense, okay, not a criminal offense, a military offense, then India can refuse. So on these two grounds, India can refuse any extradition request. In the case of Sheikh Hasina, India might say that these allegations against Sheikh Hasina are not made in good faith in the interests of justice. These are bogus charges. You are politically persecuting her. This is a political dispute. You are doing this for politics, therefore we are refusing your extradition request. So India has a way out under the treaty, and no one will say that India is not following the treaty. All right, so this is the thing. And India has many extradition treaties with many countries, okay, because crime these days is international. You can commit a crime in one country and just smuggle yourself to other country, so that the country in which you have committed a crime is unable to prosecute you, right? They won't be able to find you. But through extradition treaties, countries can exchange these criminals. All right, so it's a good thing. Okay, topic number 2, which is 18th biennial forest report. Now, what do we mean by the word biennial? Biennial means once in every 2 years. Okay, so there is a thing called annual report, that is once every year. Biennial means once every 2 years. So every 2 years, Forest Survey of India conducts a forest survey of India, right? They conduct a survey and they release a report. That report is titled State of Forest Report. Okay. So the latest State of Forest report, that was ISFR 2023, found a marginal gain of 156 square kilometer in forest cover. So this report says that India's forest cover has increased, though it has increased marginally, very low, but still it has increased. Okay. Plus, they said that India's tree cover has also increased. Okay, that too marginally. Now, the difference between the two terms, forest cover and tree cover. Well, forest cover means that area covered under forest. Tree cover means that area which is not forest. But still, there are a few, one or two trees here and there. Like in cities, we see in cities, right? You plant a tree outside your home, you plant a tree in parks. Okay, so that those would be categorized under tree cover. Whereas the actual forest areas would be categorized under forest cover. Okay. Now, this report says that for the first time, India's green exceeded 25% limit. So 25% of India's land is under either forest cover or tree cover. Okay, 21.76% is under forest, and 3.41% is under trees, which are non-forest trees. So India's total tree cover has exceeded 25% of the total land. So 25% of the total land in India is, well, under trees. Okay. Now, India has an aim of increasing its forest cover from 21.76% to 33%. That means India wants 33% of its land to be under forests. Now, this is the policy of Indian government. Okay. But we are far, far, far away from this goal. All right. Now, you need to know a few definitions to understand this report. Okay. You should be aware of certain terms. Okay. First of all, how does FSI, Forest Survey of India, define the word forest cover? What are forests basically? So any land, okay, any tree patch, a collection of trees, which is more than 1 hectare or more. Okay. So minimum area under forest should be 1 hectare. Okay. So any tree cover which is more than 1 hectare and has a canopy density of 10% or more will be considered forest. Now, the thing is, you understood what can be a forest cover. Minimum land requirement is 1 hectare. Now, what do we mean by the term canopy density? Whenever you go beside a tree, okay, whenever you're standing next to a tree, you know that the trees that you're standing next to make shadow regions, right? When sunlight shines over them, they produce a shadow, right? Every tree produces a shadow. Now, that shadow is known as canopy. Okay. Now, let's suppose there is a forest area which is 5 hectare. Okay. And 1 hectare of that land comes under the shadow of trees on that land. Okay. So, let's suppose there is a forest which has 5 hectare area and it has so many trees that 1 hectare of that land is under shadow or canopy all the time. Then that means that the canopy density of that region, 5 hectare forest region, is 20%. Why 20%? Because 1 hectare of 5 hectares is 20%, right? So 20% of the area is under canopy or shadow region. This is what we mean by canopy density. You understand? So if there is a 10 hectare forest land and the shadow region of the trees cover 5 hectares of that land, okay, so out of the 10 hectares, 5 hectares is shadow region because of the trees, then that means canopy density is 50%. Okay, so by definition, any area that has a minimum 1 hectare of land, minimum, right, and a canopy density of at least 10%, then that would be categorized as forest cover. But among forests also we have subcategories. So some forests are called very dense forests. Some forests are called moderately dense forests. Some forests are called open forests. And some are called shrubs. Okay, as you can see over here, shrubs, shrubland. Okay, now uh, the forest, if a forest has to be categorized as dense forest, then it should be having a minimum canopy density of 40% or more. Okay, if it has a canopy density of 10 to 40%, then it is called open forest. Okay, so within forest area, if the canopy density is 40% or more, dense forest. If it is less than 40% but more than 10%, then open forest. Now within dense forest, if the canopy density is greater than 70%, then we call it very dense forest. And if it is between 40 to 70%, then we call it moderately dense forest. Okay, this is the definition. So forest cover is something that at least 1 hectare of land should be under forest, and canopy density should be minimum 10%. If it is more than 10% but less than 40, open forest. More than 40% but less than 70%, moderately dense forest. And more than 70%, very dense forest. And if it is less than 10%, then we call it shrubs. Alright. And if it is 1%, then we call it non-forest area. Alright. Now, what has this report found? So, depending on factors such as climate and biotic pressure, a forest may improve or degrade. So, a very dense forest can degrade to moderate dense forest. An open forest can upgrade to moderately dense forest. Okay. Now, Forest Survey of India calculates these changes within the span of 2 years as compared to the previous survey. Okay. So, the 2023 survey calculated that how many very dense forests degraded to MDF or OF, how many OF upgraded to MDF or VDF as compared to 2021. This is a job of Forest Survey of India. All right. Now, as compared to 2021, India's overall tree cover has increased by 0.5%, but forest cover has increased by only 0.05%, very marginal. Okay, and this marginal increase is not that much of a good news, because our aim is to take forest cover to 33%. So this means that these marginal increases won't do the job. We need to increase our forest cover dramatically to 33%. Okay, that's what was found in this report. All right. Now let's move on to our third news item, which is SWAMITVA scheme. So why was this in the news? So PM Modi has asked all union ministers to attend the public events to be held to distribute 57 lakh property cards among dozen states and UTs on December 27 under SWAMITVA scheme. Now this SWAMITVA scheme is a central sector scheme. Now look, there are two types of central schemes: central sector and centrally sponsored. Okay. Central sector schemes are those schemes which are 100% funded by central government. Centrally sponsored schemes are those schemes which are partly funded by central government and partly funded by state government. So Swamitva over here is a central sector scheme. Now, what does Swamitva scheme do? So basically, as far as urban areas are concerned, well, there is no problem, because in urban areas, whenever you buy property, you get a registry. Okay, you get cards, you get proof of your ownership of that land. But in rural areas, you have a particular piece of land. Okay, you have built houses on those lands, but those houses do not have property cards. Therefore, you cannot use those houses to use those houses to get loans. Okay, you sell those houses also because you do not have registry or property cards, because rural property market is very informal, right? So what the government is trying to do through this Swamitva scheme is that all the house owners in rural areas would get property cards for their houses, so that those cards will act as proof of ownership of that piece of land on which you have constructed a house. Now you can buy and sell that house, so property market in rural areas would get a boost. You can even put that house as collateral to get loan, because now banks would also recognize that property because of the property card. So this would really help rural homeowners. Okay, the major objectives of Swamitva scheme is to provide record of rights to owners possessing house. Remember, we are not talking about agricultural land. Agricultural lands have proofs. Houses don't. So Swamitva scheme will provide a record of the ownership of your house in rural areas. Okay. Now the issue of legal ownership rights through property cards or title deeds would also get solved through this. Okay. Now about the scheme. So this scheme is basically a property survey. So through drones, satellites, through revenue officials, government would conduct survey and mapping of rural areas. Okay. Now this scheme was launched by Prime Minister in April 24, 2020 on National Panchayati Raj Day. Okay. And this scheme is also under Panchayati Raj Ministry. Distribution of property cards began in October 2024, and so far 2 crore property cards, that means 2 crore cards for houses in rural areas, have been issued so far. Okay. The scheme aims to cover the entire country by the end of 2025-26, that is next year. Now, Ministry of Panchayati Raj says that this scheme has a lot of benefits. Okay, what are the benefits? First of all, it will enable rural households to use their property as financial asset. Okay, this financial asset will be used as collateral in banks to get loans. Earlier, you can put your agricultural land as collateral, but your houses, you couldn't do that because your houses did not have any legal proof of ownership. Okay, but these property cards will help with that. Now, with property cards, now panchayats can also collect property tax. Okay, this is also a good source of revenue for gram panchayats. Now, if you have property cards of these houses, you can buy and sell these houses in rural areas, and through this, real estate market in rural areas would also get a boost. Up till now, only agricultural land is bought and sold, but not houses. So houses could be done officially. Okay, it will increase liquidity because you can buy and sell. It will pave the way for creation of accurate land records because drone surveys, satellite surveys would be done, so land records would be accurate. Okay, which would help panchayats in rural planning because now they'll have proper data with maps of where the houses are and where the other areas are. So this would help in rural planning. It will help in reduction of property related disputes. Plus, property maps will be made using geographical indicating system. Okay, same can be used for better quality gram panchayat development plan. So these maps will be used for developing gram panchayat development plan. So these are the benefits of Swamitva scheme. All right, and in the end, we'll talk about Kisan 2024. So National Farmers Day or Kisan Diwas is celebrated every year on 23rd December on the birth anniversary of 5th Prime Minister of India, Chaudhry Charan Singh. Chaudhry Charan Singh was also a very tall farm leader and he was instrumental in the enactment of many farm policies that benefited Indian farmers. Now, this day, 23rd of December, is celebrated by organizing various programs, debates, seminar, quiz, competition, discussion, essay writing functions to generate awareness regarding farmers and state of agriculture in our country. Okay. Now, on this year's Kisan Divas or Farmers Day, government actually came out with a list of schemes for Indian farmers that were launched in 2024. Okay, so the year 2024 was the year when government launched a lot of schemes to benefit Indian farmers. Now, on this day, Kisan Divas, government released that list. Okay, so some of those schemes are as following: Namo Drone Didi. It is a central sector scheme with a budget of 1,261 crore, which will provide drones so that these drones can be rented out for agricultural services, and these drones would be given to women self-help groups. So this would lead to women empowerment. Then Kisan Kavach. Most of the farmers, while applying pesticides to their crops, get side effects. So Kisan Kavach is a protective anti-pesticide suit, body suit, that will be given to farmers to protect them from pesticides. Then Clean Plant Program. Now look, India wants to boost horticulture, which includes growth of fruits and vegetables. But farmers in our country do not have access to good planting material that can be used to plant and grow fruits and vegetables. So under this program, government will provide farmers with clean plants. And then government launched in 2024 Digital Agricultural Mission, which will produce digital public infrastructure that would support, well, farmers. Okay, so these are the schemes that government launched in 2024, which the government showcased and boasted about basically on Kisan Diwas. All right. And with that, we conclude today's session. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. And I'm sure it has added value to your preparation. Please do not forget to download the notes for this lecture, because notes and revision of these notes would really help you to consolidate these current affairs in your memory for longer periods of time, at least till your examination. So do not forget to download the notes for this lecture. Well, the notes are shared on our Telegram channel, and the link to our Telegram channel is provided in the comment section below. So make sure you check that out. All right. On that note, I'll be signing off. Thank you so much, everyone.